K-dramas have been global for years, and in every era, a new female lead rises to define it. But just as quickly, most of them fade. But guess what? Park Min-young didn't, and here's what makes that remarkable. Audiences evolve. Streaming platforms push trends that dominate for a season, maybe two, and then vanish. Leading ladies get replaced overnight because the industry moves that fast. And yet somehow, Park Min-young has been here for over 2 decades. Still setting the standard, still being referenced, still being the blueprint. So how? How did she stay relevant when the K-drama machine never stops moving? Never stops looking for the next big thing? Let's break it down. Before the fame, before she became one of the most recognizable faces in Korean dramas, Park Min-young's life started quietly in Seoul. Born March 4th, 1986. English name, Rachel Park. The result of spending her high school years in Pennsylvania as an exchange student. And that experience abroad? It wasn't just about learning English. Living overseas that young shaped how she moved through the world, made her independent, gave her the kind of adaptability that would become essential when navigating an industry that never, ever sits still. When she came back to Korea, she got serious about acting, made her entertainment debut in 2005 with an SK Telecom commercial. Then came the sitcom roles, the supporting parts, slow but steady exposure, building her name recognition piece by piece. At the same time, she was also enrolled at Dongguk University, majoring in theater and film. She balanced academics with auditions, classes with filming schedules, eventually graduating in February 2013. There was no overnight explosion, no viral moment that catapulted her to instant stardom, just strategic groundwork, building skills, gaining experience, learning the industry, and waiting for the right moment to make her move. And that moment, it came. Her breakout came through High Kick, a family sitcom where she played Kang Yumi. And this role did something crucial. It introduced her to a wide audience and proved she had strong comedic timing. She was funny, but she stayed grounded, expressive without overacting. And in a genre that can easily go full cartoon, that balance is everything. After gaining popularity through comedy, she transitioned into more structured drama roles. In I Am Sam, she played Yoo Yoon-byul, rebellious, emotionally volatile, layered with family drama. This was one of her first major lead roles, and it showed she could handle heavier material beyond light sitcom energy. With every role she took on, you could see her getting sharper, more confident, more in control of her craft. And then came the project that changed everything, Sung Kyung-kwan's Scandal. At the time, gender-bending dramas were already a proven hit. Coffee Prince had been hugely successful, and You're Beautiful proved audiences absolutely loved the tension of secret identities and forbidden romance. The formula worked. Viewers were invested in the girl disguised as a boy dynamic. So stepping into another gender-disguised story, that could have felt repetitive, predictable even. But here's the smart move. Instead of doing it in a modern setting again, Sung Kyung-kwan's Scandal placed that familiar trope inside a historical Confucian institution. Suddenly, the stakes weren't just romantic tension and comedic close calls. Exposure meant real consequences, social ruin, punishment, survival. It leaned into a proven formula, but refreshed it enough to feel new, exciting, and genuinely dangerous. And at the center of it all was Park Min-young, as Kim Yoon-hee, a woman disguising herself as her brother to enter an elite male-only academy. She finally had a role that demanded everything she'd been building toward. She had to be convincing as a scholar, believable as someone hiding a life-threatening secret, emotionally strong but never over the top. And she absolutely crushed it. She didn't exaggerate the masculinity or turn the disguise into slapstick comedy. Instead, she played Yoon-hee as composed, observant, academically brilliant. The disguise worked because she portrayed discipline and restraint, someone intelligent enough to survive in that world without getting caught. But she also never let the character become just a romantic device waiting to be discovered. Yoon-hee had agency, she made decisions, she challenged authority, she moved the story forward on her own terms. Her chemistry with the male leads added romantic tension, absolutely. But the romance felt earned because she kept the character grounded. That emotional steadiness made the stakes feel real and the butterflies hit harder. The drama became a massive hit, especially among younger viewers, and helped modernize the Sajuk genre by blending political storytelling with rom-com energy. And right at the center of that shift was Park Min-young. This was the moment she stopped being a promising actress and became the face of the new historical rom-com heroine. She helped prove to audiences that historical K-dramas could also be your comfort watch, your go-to romance if done right. Sung Kyung-kwan's scandal proved that Park Min-young could anchor a rising trend and come out as one of its defining faces. But the industry? It was already shifting again. By the early 2000s, K-dramas went hard into action thrillers. Revenge plots everywhere, political corruption, morally gray male leads, darker, grittier storytelling became the new standard. And traditionally, female leads in these dramas were love interests. Emotionally important to the hero, sure, but rarely central to the actual plot, rarely driving the tension. So this was the real test. Could Park Min-young transition from historical rom-com queen to action-era lead without getting sidelined into girlfriend territory? Answer: absolutely. She even positioned herself right at the center of the action thriller wave, not at the edges of it. City Hunter, one of the biggest, most talked-about action dramas of its time. Peak revenge era, high-stakes missions, political intrigue, a male lead doing parkour off buildings and taking down corrupt officials. And Kim Nana? She was never background noise. She was a trained presidential Blue House bodyguard. She handled firearms. She carried financial responsibility for her father's medical care. She lived with discipline and emotional restraint. She wasn't written as naive or sheltered, and Park Min-young made sure she never played her that way. Here's what she understood. She didn't need to exaggerate toughness to keep up with the action. She didn't need to lean into fragility to soften the character either. Instead, she grounded Nana in quiet authority. The way she stood, the way she spoke, the way she processed fear without completely unraveling. Even opposite a massively charismatic action hero, she held her own space. She never disappeared into his shadow. She proved something important in City Hunter. A female lead could be in real danger, could stand in the middle of high-stakes chaos, and still carry the emotional core of the drama. And that mattered, because audiences were starting to expect more from women in action dramas. They didn't just want someone to protect anymore. They wanted someone who could survive the chaos, challenge the hero, and still make you believe in the love story. Then came Healer. As Chae Young-shin, she wasn't physically throwing punches or engaging in hand-to-hand combat, but she was narratively essential. She was a reporter chasing stories, uncovering long-buried truths, and she was directly tied to the central conspiracy. The mystery doesn't move forward without her. The emotional stakes don't exist without her. And Park Min-young's performance here, it's one of her most dynamic. She shifts between fear, curiosity, boldness, and vulnerability so smoothly that it never feels like she's switching characters. It feels real. It feels human. When she's scared, you feel it in your chest. When she's determined, you believe it completely. When she falls in love, it's soft and electric at the same time. And again, she delivered the romance just as powerfully as she delivered the suspense. The chemistry in Healer is still talked about years later because it balances intensity with tenderness perfectly. She wasn't just reacting to the male lead's heroism. She was matching him emotionally, challenging him, trusting him, letting herself be vulnerable without losing her strength. If you ask OG K-drama fans to name the most iconic female leads in action romance dramas, Park Min-young's name comes up almost instantly. Because she wasn't just cast in the trend, she became one of its defining faces. While action dramas were upgrading their female leads from passive to capable, from ornamental to essential, she was already there, already embodying that shift, before it became the standard. And that's the pattern. That's the strategy. Every time the industry raised the bar for what a female lead should be, she'd already cleared it. If City Hunter and Healer established Park Min-young as a defining face of the action romance era, her late 2000s and early 2000s run proved something even more significant. She mastered the modern workplace heroine. It begins with What's Wrong with Secretary Kim, where she played Kim Miso, the hyper-competent secretary who decides to resign after years of being the backbone of her narcissistic boss's entire professional and personal life. Park Min-young delivered comedy timing without ever compromising the character's dignity. Miso was funny, but she was never foolish. She was competent, efficient, emotionally intelligent, and completely aware of her own value. The character's appeal didn't come from clumsiness or naivety. It came from pure, undeniable capability. And here's where the strategic brilliance becomes impossible to ignore. If you try to compare What's Wrong with Secretary Kim to other workplace rom-coms from that period, it becomes really difficult to identify where she was drawing inspiration from because she became the reference point. The image of the polished office heroine in perfectly tailored outfits, emotionally mature but still romantically soft, that entire aesthetic is inseparable from her portrayal of Kim Mi-so. Then came her private life, where she portrayed Sung Deok-mi, a museum chief curator by day, passionate idol fangirl, and fan site manager by night. On paper, that concept could have easily leaned into caricature or felt gimmicky. But Park Min-young approached the role with perfect balance. She shifted between professional composure and fan-driven chaos in a way that felt completely authentic rather than exaggerated. The transitions between her two identities were fluid, grounded, genuinely human. In When the Weather is Fine, she made another deliberate pivot. As Mok Hae-won, an unemployed cello teacher returning to a small countryside town to reset her life, the entire tone shifted dramatically. The performance was quiet, internal, deeply restrained. She relied heavily on silence, softened vocal delivery, and the smallest of expressions to convey everything. Then, in Forecasting Love and Weather, she portrayed Jin Ha-kyung, a 35-year-old general forecaster navigating both professional responsibility and messy romantic dynamics. Finally, in Love in Contract, she played Choi Sang-yoon, also known as Jamie, a professional contract marriage partner who completely transforms herself depending on the expectations of her different clients. And when you step back and examine this entire run as a whole, the pattern becomes unmistakable. From 2018 onward, whenever a new variation of the workplace heroine emerged, hyper-competent secretary, double-life professional, healing small-town returnee, seasoned career, woman identity-shifting strategist, Park Min-young wasn't just present in the conversation. Through this run of dramas, she helped introduce a version of the rom-com that felt distinctly, unapologetically adult. These weren't stories about wide-eyed young women stumbling into their first love. These were women with established careers, real responsibilities, emotional histories, and firm personal boundaries. Park Min-young subtly expanded what the workplace female lead could be. In an industry that often reduces female archetypes into fixed, unchanging categories, she introduced variation within the trend itself. She showed that the modern K-drama female lead could genuinely contain multitudes. And that's why her presence in the workplace rom-com boom doesn't feel repetitive or predictable. It feels evolutionary. And now, she's evolving again, stepping into darker, more morally complex territory. With Marry My Husband, Park Min-young doesn't just enter the revenge wave. She distinguishes herself inside it. By 2024, revenge dramas were everywhere. Second chance stories, time travel resets, female leads being angry, assertive, strategically cold. It became the new formula, the new standard everyone was chasing. The challenge wasn't just playing strong anymore. It was standing out when literally everyone else was trying to deliver the exact same archetype. And what she does differently? Control. As Kang Ji-won, she builds the transformation both physically and psychologically. Early Ji-won feels small, her voice slightly softer, her reactions delayed, her posture subtly closed off. She occupies less space in every scene. After the reset, after she gets her second chance, she doesn't suddenly become explosive or theatrical, she becomes precise. That restraint is exactly what separates her from the louder, more obvious revenge portrayals flooding the market. She makes intelligence the primary weapon, not rage. And because she never overplays the anger, when emotion actually does break through that controlled surface, it hits so much harder, sharper, more dangerous. That's reinvention without exaggeration. She doesn't abandon her trademark composure, she weaponizes it. Then comes Siren's Kiss, which signals an even riskier pivot. Han Seol-ah isn't written as a clear heroine. She's an elegant art auctioneer surrounded by constant suspicion. Men connected to her keep dying under mysterious circumstances. The audience is deliberately meant to question whether she's victim or villain. And this kind of role, it's built entirely on performance control. If Marry My Husband is about calculated, visible power, Siren's Kiss is about unreadable, mysterious power. And what makes this pivot genuinely impressive isn't just that she's taking on darker material or morally ambiguous characters. It's that she's reshaping her entire public image again. And it doesn't feel forced or desperate. It feels like natural evolution. For years, she was the polished office heroine, the emotionally intelligent romantic lead, the safe, reliable comfort watch. Now she's allowing that exact same polished surface to feel suspicious, potentially dangerous. The calm, composed secretary becomes the calm, unreadable enigma. And this is where the real argument lives. It's one thing to be a good actress. Plenty of people are talented. It's another thing entirely to stand out inside a trend where everyone else is trying to deliver the exact same archetype, chasing the same audience approval. When the industry moves, she moves with it. But she always leaves her own distinct stamp on whatever archetype she touches. So, has Park Min-young perfected the K-drama female lead? Yes, but not because she's just gorgeous. Though let's be completely honest, that obviously doesn't hurt her case. And not simply because she's talented, though she absolutely, undeniably is. She perfected it because she genuinely understands the formula. She knows exactly how to deliver those butterflies that make viewers squeal. She knows how to ground pure fantasy in just enough realism to make it believable. She knows how to balance independence with romance, strength with vulnerability, career ambition with emotional availability. From Sung Kyung-kwan's scandal to Healer, from What's Wrong with Secretary Kim to Marry My Husband, she didn't just blindly follow trends as they emerged, she evolved strategically with them. And that's exactly why, whether you're an OG fan who's been binge-watching K-dramas since the early 2000s, or someone who literally just discovered this entire world on Netflix last month, there's almost always a Park Min-young role that feels like it was specifically made for you, that serves as the perfect entry point into her work. Okay, your turn. Which Park Min-young era hit hardest for you? Secretary Kim's polished rom-com energy? Healer's reporter with trust issues? Or are you Team Revenge Ji-won? Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely want to know which era dominated. And now, her newest drama, Siren's Kiss, is bringing full femme fatale energy. The tension is sharper, the aura is darker, and her chemistry with Lee Ha-joon, absolutely explosive. If you think this pairing is about to dominate 2026, just wait until you see who else is coming. Click on this video to find out which K-drama couples of 2026 are about to become our next obsession.